A man desperate to survive accidentally shattered a priceless vase worth millions. He picked two relatively smooth pieces of the broken vase and tied them to a long cloth, creating a makeshift pair of sunglasses. He had been trapped in the mansion for several days and planned to pry open the vent cover on the ceiling to escape. The falling cement dust was blocked by his temporary sunglasses, which not only improved his work efficiency, but also gave him hope for escape. When he finally pried open the cement block, he discovered a screw hidden behind the picture frame. Jerry instinctively tried to unscrew it, but it wouldn't budge, so he began smashing the cement around the frame, only to find that 12 screws were embedded inside. It was clear that these screws were used to secure the bulletproof glass. Suddenly, he saw a janitor appear on the security monitor, sitting outside the mansion, resting. At that moment, Jerry saw hope. He grabbed a frying pan and began smashing the door, hoping to catch the janitor's attention. But the door was made of steel, with excellent soundproofing, and the janitor was busy working, so he didn't hear the noise inside. Jerry quickly wrote a distress note, hoping to slip it through the door gap. However, the gap was too small for the paper to fit. He could only watch helplessly as the janitor left the elevator, and Jerry's hope was shattered once again. The man woke up, surprised to find a large bump on his forehead. When he gently touched it, the intense pain made him involuntarily twist his face. He hurriedly opened the medicine cabinet and searched for a while. In the end, he only found a pair of eyebrow tweezers, but he didn't give up. He lifted his hair and pressed the sharp end of the tweezers against his forehead, fumbling to find the right spot. Once he found it, he didn't hesitate and stabbed the tweezers into the skin. The sharp pain made his whole body tremble, but he forced himself to endure. He continued to move the tweezers around the wound. After a while, he finally cut open a deep wound that exposed the bone. The pain shot straight to his skull, causing him to curl up on the ground, yet he still didn't stop. Instead, he threw the tweezers aside, and with his fingers, he carefully probed the wound. Soon, he felt something. When he pulled his fingers out, he was nearly scared out of his wits. There was a worm crawling inside the bump on his forehead. He quickly threw the worm aside and turned away to vomit, but his stomach was already empty. However, this was far from over. He had to immediately squeeze out the pus and blood and thoroughly clean the wound, because in this hot and humid jungle, even the smallest mistake could lead to a deadly infection. Before each murder, Mary would clean the basement fridge. She would climb in first, just to check if the scene was comfortable enough for the next victim. Then she would watch a crime movie, learning new techniques for hiding bodies. Mary had been mentally tormented by her classmates for years at school. Anxiety led her to constantly pull out her own hair. At the school dance, they tore off Mary's wig. That night, she completely broke down. After that, Mary had been waiting for the opportunity for revenge. She went to her late father's auto shop, took some tarpaulins to wrap the bodies. Just as Mary was about to leave, she encountered Curry, a mechanic who had wanted to buy the shop since her father passed away. Mary developed feelings for him, so she agreed to have dinner with him. That night, Mary had carefully prepared for her first date with Curry. Curry was 2 hours late, but Mary still confessed her feelings to him. Curry did not reject her. The night ended with sweet notes of affection. After returning to the basement, Mary called her target Jesse. She pretended to be selling a house and invited Jesse to come over the next evening for a tour. Mary's plan seemed flawless, but an accident occurred. This was a strange flight. Anyone who made a sound would be taken away by a monster. The flight attendants reminded everyone to stay quiet, as it was the only way to stay safe. However, the passengers didn't believe the stewardess. An old man kept harassing the woman sitting next to him. When the flight attendant noticed, she immediately stepped in to stop him. A beautiful woman was talking on the phone hands-free. When the stewardess saw this, she grabbed her phone and threw it into the teapot. The child in the woman's arms was terrified. The stewardess warned her that if she didn't follow the rules, she would be thrown off the plane. However, the child laughed upon hearing this. At this moment, Mike couldn't hold back any longer.
Creatures?
All the passengers were stunned, not daring to make a sound. One person intentionally placed his smelly feet next to the beautiful woman. The odor almost made her vomit, but in the end, the person was overwhelmed by his own smell. As more and more people were taken away, the girl behind felt lucky to be mute. The handsome guy behind her quickly made a gesture, signaling the parrot to stay quiet. In the next moment, the old lady next to them silently thanked herself for having a fish as a pet. Then the flight attendants announced that the plane was about to take off. To everyone's surprise, even the crew members weren't spared. But why could the stewardess still talk? A family was found dead from the cold, despite it being a hot summer. Roger approached one of the bodies, and when he lifted the body's head, he realized the girl had not died from the cold, but from the sudden snowstorm. The snowstorm had taken many lives, even rendering phones and cars useless. In order to reunite with his wife and child, Roger had no choice but to cross the snowfields alone. However, halfway through, he suddenly heard a whistle from behind. Roger looked around, but saw nothing. Just as he was puzzled, he discovered an electrician dead on a utility pole. It turned out the whistle sound was caused by friction between an iron ladder and the pole. Roger continued on his way home, but the snow had piled up high and he quickly lost his way. Luckily, Roger had prepared for this. He took out a map and began searching for his location. Once he found his position, he pressed on. Along the way, there were bodies everywhere, but Roger was no longer afraid, feeling numb to it all. He finally reached a train. Suddenly, he heard tapping on the glass. Following the sound, Roger saw a large group of passengers. He didn't understand why there were so many people there. As he was confused, a woman begged him for help. Roger boarded the train, but the scene inside the train shocked him. To confirm that the prisoner wasn't feigning death, the warden burned the soles of his feet with fire. The old man showed no reaction at all. Seeing this, the warden ordered his subordinates to handle the body. The guards wrapped him in a shroud, planning to carry him out tomorrow. They didn't realize that another prisoner had witnessed the entire event. After the guards left, Curry eagerly crawled out. He looked at the old man's body, and a bold idea suddenly popped into his mind. Curry quickly tore open the shroud, dragged the old man's body into his own cell, and positioned it as if the man were sleeping. Then Curry cut off some of the old man's hair and attached it to the old man's head, making the body look more like himself. After everything was prepared, Curry returned to the old man's cell. Before the guards came back, he sewed himself into the shroud. After that, everything was left to fate. Although the guards found the body a bit heavy when they lifted it, they didn't suspect anything and sank it into the sea. Thanks to the small knife the old man had used while alive, Curry cut open the shroud and escaped. Finally, he broke free of his restraints, struggling towards the light. After being illegally imprisoned for 14 years, Curry finally escaped, but the danger was far from over. A small, adorable creature slowly crawled out of the woman's mouth. It had no wings, yet could fly through the air. Its mouth was filled with sharp teeth. Gwen stared at it in terror. Then the little creature bit into her abdomen. This was the child Gwen had carried for 2 years. Despite the immense pain, she endured it and let it consume her. At that moment, Gwen's husband walked in, saw the scene, and immediately tried to kill the monster. But Gwen stopped him. The next day, the creature had metamorphosed, turning into a giant python. It smashed through a 10-meter thick steel door, then quickly rushed out of the cave and flew away. Meanwhile, Roger watched in horror as the tree in front of him rapidly shrank. Before he could react, a roaring sound came from above. The giant python lunged down, swallowing the entire tree. Then the giant python mutated again. Luckily, Gwen arrived just in time. She had just completed her transformation and used her abilities to stop the giant python, but it was completely ineffective. The giant python launched a violent attack, defeating Gwen. Roger and the others had to scatter, searching for Gwen's whereabouts. When they found her, Gwen was severely injured. They had no choice but to send her back to the base. Gwen quickly regained consciousness, then went back to hunt the giant python. This time, she released a massive surge of energy, defeating the giant python. Finally, she extracted the python's core processor, successfully putting it into a deep sleep. The woman suddenly realized she was a ghost, but she didn't know how she had died. Gwen followed the police to find her own body, and when she saw herself dressed in a seductive manner, she felt very confused. Why would someone dress her up like this? One police officer suspected she was a local prostitute, which made Gwen extremely angry. Another officer found a string of mysterious numbers on her arm, seemingly some sort of special code. The police found Gwen's car nearby and gathered information from her driver's license. To uncover the truth, they went to Gwen's home. After searching the entire apartment, they found no clues. Finally, they found Gwen's friend. Gwen thought her best friend could help the police. However, to her surprise, the friend kept speaking ill of Gwen, saying her private life was a mess. Upon hearing this, Gwen was furious. The light bulb seemed to flicker with her emotions. She believed she could influence the light bulb, trying to use this signal to communicate with the police. But after several attempts, nothing happened. The police then went to Gwen's ex-boyfriend's bar to inform him of her death. However, to their surprise, the ex-boyfriend revealed a huge secret. The woman was imprisoned in the basement, sexually abused by her biological father for over a year. Now she was pregnant with Rick's child and gave birth to a baby girl named Kasha. One day, Rick brought Gwen a supply bag containing fruit, food, and a dining knife. This time, Gwen gave up resisting, silently accepting the supplies. Rick lived a double secret life, one with his wife Mary and daughter Anna, and another in the basement with Gwen and their daughter Kasha. As a reward for Gwen's good behavior, Rick brought a television to them. However, the little girl didn't know what a television was. Gwen explained to her daughter, "A television lets us see the outside world." Then Gwen played some cartoons for Kasha. I think this was the happiest day Gwen had in 4 years. In the 7th year of Gwen's captivity by Rick, she gave birth to her second child. Gwen named him Roger. At this time, Rick was being interrogated by Anna and Mary. due to his lies. An intense argument followed. An angry Mary shouted, saying she would do anything to find her daughter. During the argument, Rick accidentally dropped the keys onto the sofa. After Rick and Mary left, Anna picked up the keys, and then she went to the basement in search of clues. The three sisters continued to live off their grandmother's pension. They kept their deceased grandmother in the refrigerator. As long as no one discovered she was dead, the three sisters could keep receiving her pension. To prevent the body from being discovered, they bought a large amount of frozen food, completely covering their grandmother's body. One day, Gwen went to collect the pension, but the staff told her it had been 6 months since the elderly person had personally claimed it, so they decided to visit the elderly person. Gwen quickly rushed home to defrost her grandmother's body. If they were caught fraudulently claiming the pension, they would face severe punishment. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Government workers had arrived. To avoid getting caught, Gwen quickly went to the door to delay them, giving her sisters time to handle the body. She lied, saying her sisters always dressed untidily, and asked the staff to wait for a moment. Fortunately, the sisters acted quickly, dressing their grandmother beautifully, as if she was playing cards. They successfully deceived the staff. To prevent the secret from being exposed, Gwen immediately led the staff upstairs, planning to use her charm to distract their attention. But just then, the lights in the room suddenly went out. Gwen hurried to check the wiring, but witnessed a terrifying scene. A woman walked alone into the bathroom, but she wasn't going to the restroom. Instead, she was checking what she had stolen. It turned out that Gwen was a professional thief. She gazed at the exquisite pocket watch in her hand, her heart filled with ecstasy. Just as she was about to leave, the keyhole on the mirror caught her attention. Years of experience told her there must be something hidden inside, so she began to pick the lock. But an accident happened. The knife cut her finger. As Gwen wiped the blood away, the door she had just opened slammed shut. This only confirmed to her that there must be treasure hidden inside. She tried to pry open the mirror. What happened next made her hold her breath. Gwen quickly shut the door. She never imagined there was a monster hiding inside. Gwen screamed and desperately cried for help, but no one responded. She struggled to escape, but the stolen pocket watch slipped from her hand, falling onto the floor. The next second, this is a villa hidden deep within the forest. The moment the door closed, the villa disappeared without a trace. The supplies inside were enough for 2 people to live for 10 years. They could observe the outside world clearly through the glass, but the people outside were unaware of the villa's existence. They thought they could live a peaceful life here. However, when night fell, and they fell asleep, the pet rabbit quietly slipped out through the dog door. It was this rabbit that brought them a great crisis. Anna, fast asleep in the dead of night, was suddenly awakened by a loud noise. She quickly grabbed the weapon by her bed. Clearly, this villa should not have been discovered, but it seemed the people outside could see them. Every attack they made was successful, hitting Anna's location. Fortunately, the glass was strong enough, successfully blocking the first wave of attacks. Just as Anna was deciding how to respond, the rabbit suddenly returned to the villa from outside. The enemy's attack was also imminent. After a few minutes of assault, the attackers finally fled, but the rabbit wasn't so lucky. Anna held the rabbit and cried, vowing to make the enemy pay the price. After Anna was attacked, she began to question her brother Jerry because she smelled something strange on him. Jerry insisted that he wasn't the one who harmed her. However, their foster mother stood by, provoking and insulting Jerry. Angry, Jerry shouted at her to shut up, while he noticed something strange. Roger was standing in the heavy rain. Jerry took out his phone and snapped a photo as evidence. The foster mother lunged at him, snatched the phone and smashed it on the floor. She then pretended she had been attacked, screaming and crying hysterically. When Anna heard the commotion, she mistakenly thought Jerry had gone violent again. She walked up to the foster mother and ordered Jerry to step back. Jerry knew his sister couldn't see the truth, and he didn't blame her. He only wanted to take her away. However, Anna refused to leave. Disappointed, Jerry drove alone to the foster care center, determined to report the strange occurrences in their adoptive family. At the front desk, he was told to wait his turn. While waiting, he accidentally saw the missing persons board, where he saw Roger's photo. In that moment, he finally realized that Roger was also a victim. A man accidentally fell into the vampire's lair. Just as he was about to die, the vampire queen was captivated by his appearance. She slit her arm and fed her blood directly into his mouth. Curry's body underwent a massive transformation. Not only did he gain incredible speed, but he no longer feared the sunlight. Curry had become the new generation of vampire. Soon a family was attacked. A large group of vampires stormed in. The mother quickly opened the basement door and hid the daughter inside. The couple tried to resist, but the sounds of their struggle soon vanished. Accompanied by their screams, even the daughter didn't escape. She didn't survive hiding in the basement to fight the vampire army. Humans shifted from blade weapons to firearms. Eventually, they even used nuclear weapons, but they still couldn't completely eradicate the vampires. The bombing turned Earth into ruins until a group of warrior priests appeared. The war finally ended. They had crosses tattooed on their foreheads. Each one was a highly skilled warrior. After all the vampires were destroyed, the world order underwent a massive change. The church, with its influence in the war, gradually became the new center of power.
괜찮아? 아이씨! 아담하네. A컵? 눈빛 존나 살아있네. 어떨까? 한번 더?
I am a girl who hasn't graduated, but I was forced to serve time with over 20 criminals. I vaguely guessed what they were planning to do, but I still underestimated everything. When I picked up that glass of water, I never expected to be drugged, until my vision began to blur. I weakly collapsed onto the bed. In that moment, I knew I was finished. The first batch of scum approached, but what they didn't know was, when despair and helplessness pile up, a girl pushed to the edge and will bravely fight for her life. I won't let myself become their plaything, so blood stained the shards of porcelain. That was my only weapon. Thankfully, I made up my mind. This gave me a glimmer of hope for survival, but he had no intention of letting me go. He kept chasing me. However, waiting for him was my full retaliation. He was clearly enraged. Just as he was about to finish me off, a voice came from behind and stopped him.
And we're down we go, and we're down we go, till we're down.
My name is Luke Cage. I possess strength far beyond that of ordinary people. My skin is incredibly tough. Nothing can harm me. Any physical attack is ineffective against me. But I was once an ordinary man. These abilities come from being framed and sent to prison. The warden oppressed me inside, but I refused to bow to him. He tormented me every day, even beating me to the point where I couldn't move. Later, they used me as an experiment subject. During the experiment, the warden suddenly stormed into the lab and set the machine to its highest setting. He wanted to further torture me, but no one expected the experiment to fail. The machine exploded. The lab became a chaotic mess. The warden and the doctors died on the spot, but miraculously, I survived. All my wounds healed rapidly. I felt a powerful force surging within me. I tried striking with my fist and made a huge hole in the thick prison wall. I eventually managed to escape from the prison on that island. Curry has an exceptionally large head, but his mouth is unusually small. He can't eat any food, so he's always been very thin. One day he went out to find food and met a woman who was performing a sacrifice. Curry immediately picked up a roasted chicken and tried to put it in his mouth, but his mouth was too small. So Curry tried to eat an egg. He sucked on it for a while but still couldn't swallow it. Then he picked up a block of frozen tofu, but discovered that his mouth was even smaller than the tofu. Curry felt very frustrated, not wanting to starve to death. Just when he was in despair, Carter nearby woke him up. Seeing Curry's anxious expression, Carter recommended mini biscuits. Even people with small mouths could easily eat these biscuits. Carter picked up a biscuit and began eating it. Seeing Carter enjoying it so much, Curry asked Carter for some biscuits. Carter threw him one, but the biscuit hit his eye. Carter threw a few more, but Curry couldn't catch them. Eventually, Curry managed to eat his first bite of food. At that moment, Curry saw an advertisement for a cosmetic surgery hospital, but the surgery fee was too expensive. He didn't have any money at the moment. Carter appeared again and suggested that if he had money, he should buy more bags of biscuits. Curry thought it was a good idea, so he stuffed the biscuits into his mouth. My wife and I didn't spend a single penny, yet we bought a mansion worth 20 million. Because Jack didn't sell things for money, he only asked us to agree to one thing. As long as we didn't open the cellar in the backyard, the house would be ours. If we opened the cellar, we'd have to return the house. Faced with such an enticing deal, we thought he was joking, but Jack didn't say much more. He just said it was getting late, and told us to spend the night in the mansion. The next morning, Jack left and only a sales contract was left on the table. The terms were exactly as he said, so we went to the backyard and found that the cellar had a lock on it. My wife was very excited, but I still couldn't believe something could be this free. Either the seller hid something terrifying, or this was a new scam. Just as I was having doubts, an agent hired by Jack appeared. She said everything was true. As long as we signed the contract and handed it to her, the house would be transferred to us. I didn't agree immediately, but pulled my wife aside and told her my concerns. But my wife decided to move into the mansion. In the end, I thought I was overthinking it, since it was free after all. So I signed the contract, and we became the legal owners of the mansion. But since moving in, strange things have been happening continuously.
And we're down, we go.
Hey.
Go, 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 go. And we're down, we go. Go.
Shut the fuck up!
So we're down.
We are the employees of this restaurant, but that couple doesn't work at all. They flirt in front of everyone. I finally couldn't take it anymore and shouted at them to stop. But this enraged the man. He stood up and started humiliating me relentlessly. Then he took out a moldy hamburger and forced me to eat it. Curry couldn't take it any longer and shouted at him to stop.
Stop. What? You should stop now.
Why do you fucking care?
Because you made your point. You made it a while ago. And now you're just being a dick.
I've never had a problem with you.
I didn't want anyone else to get involved in this matter, so without hesitation I swallowed the moldy hamburger. Curry was extremely angry. Then he went to the car trunk. Curry took out a gun and walked back into the restaurant, aiming at the man.
And they will run you down to your floor. Yeah.
The girl had just bent down to prepare some food. The next moment, her teacher stabbed her twice from behind. The girl tried to escape, but Jack quickly caught up and drove the knife into her chest. Watching the girl lying on the ground, barely breathing, Jack knew he hadn't finished. He charged forward violently, stabbing her again and again until the girl was completely still. Only then did he stop. He then stuffed the girl's body into a sack, took it outside, and threw it into the trunk of his car. Jack drove to the suburbs, and under the cover of darkness, he dug a hole deep in the woods to bury the girl. The next day, Jack went to school as usual, as if nothing had happened. When he reached the classroom door, a female teacher stopped him, telling him that the girl was missing. Her family had already called the police. Just then, a student rushed in, saying she had seen the girl earlier. This sentence made Jack's heart race. Obviously, he had personally buried the girl. How could she possibly be in the classroom? Jack fought back his anxiety and followed the student into the classroom, but there was no one inside. The student, however, said the girl was sitting on that stool. The movie is called Ringu.
Stop! No! Don't shoot her!
Ake's parents gave him a special gift for his safety. The monster wanted to win the boy's affection. It proactively extended its head, leaning against Ake's shoulder, seeking comfort, deepening the bond between the monster and him. That night, Ake took it out for a walk. Suddenly, Ake noticed a flag hanging on the wall. He ordered the monster to take down the flag.
Give me that flag. Quick, I'm timing you. Go!
At that moment, a car stopped in front of Ake. The monster immediately charged toward it. This episode is called Bloodline. The old man opened the trunk and took out a green bag, which contained 200 kilograms of flour.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Need help, sir?
At that moment, a narcotics officer approached, thinking the old man's car had broken down, and walked over to ask what was in the car. The old man answered that he was delivering walnuts to his granddaughter, and the bag contained walnuts. The officer believed him, but the police dog kept barking. The officer thought the dog just needed to urinate. After all, it was just him and the old man standing there. There couldn't be any drugs. The old man was about to leave in a hurry, but suddenly calmed down, took out some ointment, and applied it to his hands as he got out of the car. When the police dog got closer, the old man touched its nose. The strong smell of the ointment confused the dog. The narcotics officer came over and wished the old man a safe journey. This old man is a retired soldier, now living by growing flowers. He hasn't been in contact with his family for years, occasionally attending flower exhibitions, and is very skilled at flirting with women.
Okay. Well, ladies, you're on the wrong floor. Third floor is the beauty pageant.
The movie is called The Mule. The girl broke the world record with a light jump. This was all thanks to a happy ghost. It silently helped her behind the scenes. No one could see it. When it was the blue team's turn, the happy ghost deliberately blocked their way. As a result, the opponent's jump was only half a meter. In the pole vault competition, the happy ghost pushed the girl aside. But when it was the blue team's turn, the happy ghost grabbed a shovel and began digging. The blue team was completely stunned. The happy ghost had originally planned to rest, but just then a flying disc came from the sky, thrown by the blue team, hitting him right on the forehead, leaving a huge bump. Before he could recover, someone threw a javelin at him. The happy ghost quickly ran away. In the end, the javelin hit his clothes, leaving a large hole. He was very angry and decided to teach the blue team a lesson. The running race started soon. The happy ghost slapped the blue team. However, the blue team ran incredibly fast, catching up in just a few seconds. They had no idea the happy ghost was waiting for them. Next was the shot put competition. The blue team gave it their all, but the shot put flew less than half a meter. When it was the red team's turn, the happy ghost quickly ran away with the shot put. In the end, with the help of the happy ghost, the red team won the championship, and the happy ghost successfully got his revenge. The movie is called Happy Ghost. That day, I was about to open the door, but I discovered something terrifying. I clearly remembered that morning I had locked all 3 locks, but now, with just a turn of the key, the door opened. Someone had tampered with my locks. I thought for a moment and decided to go inside to check. At that moment, the beam of light reflected by the glass stunned me. Someone had been in my apartment. I immediately locked the door from the outside, ignoring the things scattered on the floor. I ran frantically to the elevator, pressed the emergency button, and told the security guard that someone had broken into my home. When I went downstairs, I bumped into a security guard who was coming to check things out. Seeing that I was so scared I had even lost my shoes, he quickly tried to calm me down. After I explained what had happened, we walked to my apartment door together. The guard cautiously pushed open the door, ready to confront the intruder. But to our surprise, we searched every room and found no one. The guard asked me to check my valuables. I carefully looked around and nothing was missing. The guard thought I might have been mistaken, but my intuition told me someone had been in my apartment. Although there was no evidence, I couldn't file a report. The guard reassured me again and reminded me to lock the door properly, leaving the key in the lock so no one could open it from the outside. After the guard left, a terrifying thing happened. No criminal has ever left this place alive. The moment a person feels guilt, this creature immediately senses it. A second later, its eyes emit a sound wave, instantly turning the target's brain into dust. This creature is the last of its kind among its species. Now it guards the Interstellar Bank, making it the safest vault in the galaxy. Every visitor's genes are scanned and verified, and any attempt at forgery is completely stopped. The body is incinerated on the spot. Until today, when the doctor appeared, he is supported by 3 of his most trusted allies. First is Jerry, whose brain has been upgraded to a supercomputer, able to crack any system in a second. Next is Gwen, who can easily transform into anyone she has touched. Finally, there's Lux, who always complains but shows up when it matters most. They are hired by a mysterious dream architect to infiltrate the bank and steal the rarest of priceless treasures. Once everything is ready, Gwen disguises herself as a customer and leads the team into the main hall. However, as soon as they enter, the sound of alarms fills the entire building. The exit slams shut behind them with a bang. At this moment, the Heart Demon appears. Escorted by armed guards, it slowly enters the team's view. This series is called Doctor Who. The murderer killed the owner of a toy factory. The toys around him remembered his face, which got him into huge trouble. Jerry had a bad habit. After each murder, he would take something as a souvenir. This action gave the toys the chance to find him. At first, Jerry didn't realize the danger until he got home, took a shower, and was ready to sleep. That was when strange things started happening. In the middle of the night, Jerry was woken up by the doorbell. He opened the door and found a delivery package placed at the doorstep. He hadn't bought anything recently, which completely confused him. Afraid of enemy retaliation, Jerry carefully opened the package. Fortunately, his fears did not come true. Inside was only a green toy box. What was even stranger was that the toy company was the same company of the man he had killed recently. Jerry decided to check what was inside the box. When he fully lifted the lid, he was stunned. Dozens of soldiers were neatly arranged inside the box, each equipped with various weapons. Some were wielding knives, others were holding rocket launchers. At first, as a top-tier assassin, Jerry did not take these little toys seriously. However, just as he looked away, other even stranger things started to happen. I installed a camera in the water bottle. Then I kept walking past girls in short skirts, holding bottles in their hands. I recorded their skirts for a different perspective for my followers. I even hid a pinhole camera in my hat. But at that time, I didn't know I had already stepped into a death trap. Later, I entered a maid-themed restaurant. While flirting with a maid, a man walked past me, holding a bottle filled with a chemical oil. At the same time, a maid in the kitchen poured the freshly delivered oil into the pot. Soon, a portion of fries fried in the special oil was served. As I enjoyed the food, another man poured the chemical substance into the water. Just as I stood up, a bubble appeared in front of me. I casually flicked the bubble but inhaled the chemical substance. Then I picked up the water bottle, ready to continue filming. As I passed the water splash game area, a girl splashed water at me. The moment the water hit my face, the chemical substance started reacting. I immediately felt weak and breathless, then collapsed onto the ground. Coincidentally, the celebrity's car arrived at that moment. Everyone at the event turned to the celebrity, and no one noticed me collapsing. In the end, I quietly died on the steps. And all of this was actually Gwen's plan. This movie is called Officer Koo. This is a world where beards are considered beautiful. Everyone has a thick beard, and even the little animals are no exception. They use hair dryers to maintain their beards. Every year, they hold a competition to select the beard queen. The criteria for judging are the length and quality of the beard. This year's beard queen is a beautiful lady with a full beard. Of course, this caused jealousy among the Fat Sisters. They secretly kidnapped the beard queen, shaved off her beard and glued it to their own faces. The beard queen completely broke down. She immediately went to the beach manager to complain. However, when the manager saw her, he almost vomited. Passers-by nearby were also shocked and quickly covered their eyes, afraid that more people would see her appearance. The manager urgently evacuated the crowd. Meanwhile, the Fat Sisters, now with long beards, became the new beard queens. They appeared on entertainment magazines and even received awards. One day, the manager suddenly discovered a razor on the beach and immediately felt something was wrong. He picked up binoculars and saw that the Fat Sisters' clothes also had the same razor. He immediately confronted them. When they saw the manager, the Fat Sisters immediately fled, but they escaped too slowly. The manager flipped their electric scooter and found it filled with razors. When he lifted their clothes, he discovered even more razors. It turned out their secret to maintaining beards was shaving off other people's beards and gluing them to their own faces. How is a piece of bacon made? The flexible bacon jumped onto the wall. It calmly thought about a way to escape. Jack quickly picked up his weak sister. Then he sent her out of the prison. However, when Jack turned around, he found that the bacon on the wall had disappeared. Taking advantage of the blind spot in his vision, the bacon jumped onto Jack's shoulder. Fortunately, the girl at the door discovered the bacon. Jack had no choice but to sacrifice himself. He ordered everyone to shut the door. The newly born bacon was highly aggressive. It could release millions of volts of electricity. The girl would not give up, rushing towards Jack to knock the bacon off. But the bacon was tightly wrapped around the girl's hand, seizing the opportunity to launch an attack. When the bacon wasn't paying attention, Jack slapped it hard, sending it into the corner. Then Jack quickly threw a dagger, pinning the bacon to the wall. Everyone thought the hunt was over. But the next second, the bacon grabbed the handle of the dagger, pulled the dagger out of its body, and launched a fierce counterattack on humans. Fortunately, a teammate trapped the bacon in a metal basin, then poured gasoline and set it on fire. The flames burned for several minutes, filling the air with the scent of grilled meat. However, the next second Jack reacted quickly. He stuffed the bacon into a cup of water. The bacon suddenly struggled in pain. It turned out it was afraid of water. And just like that, a brand new piece of bacon was created. The woman was horrified to discover that the train she had just caught was very strange. She saw the hollow eyes of the passengers. Gwen realized that everyone on board had been infected. She watched them inject the virus into anyone who was uninfected. Gwen forced herself to stay calm, acting just like them. She had to find her son. Then she quickly slipped into the restroom but was spotted by a child. The child saw through her disguise. Fortunately, Gwen reacted quickly. She slammed the restroom door shut. When the door opened again, the boy saw Gwen wiping away the virus that had fallen from her skin. In fact, the virus had dropped from the trash can. She intentionally made the boy believe she had also been infected. Through this trick, Gwen successfully and safely left the train station. Her ex-husband was already waiting for her. To avoid raising suspicion, Gwen remained expressionless. However, when they were eating together, her boyfriend suddenly called. Fortunately, their relationship was strong. They successfully fooled her ex-husband's family with a code phrase. Gwen learned that her boyfriend would come to find her in an hour within 2 hours of her ex-husband's work shift. Then her ex-husband left for work. Gwen seized the opportunity to quietly slip into another room. There she found her son, still uninfected. Just as Gwen was about to leave with her son, an unexpected event occurred. The boy could speak 3 days after he was born. By the time he was 1 year old, not only had he learned to walk, but he also had the ability to float. At just 1 year old, he could teleport to help his mother with tasks. As he grew older, his superpowers became stronger and stronger. He could move cars with one hand. One time, when he slipped while walking, he almost destroyed all of Tokyo. With this power, becoming a wealthy, handsome man living a luxurious life shouldn't have been difficult for him. However, the boy began to grow bored of his superpowers. For example, while having breakfast, he accidentally bent his spoon into two halves from using too much force. When he encountered a pretty girl on the street, he could hear her thoughts with precision. While playing poker with his classmates, he could easily win by using his X-ray vision. In order to control these abilities, he wore two small balls. Whenever he wore them, his superpowers would be halved. Despite this, once, when he accidentally slipped, he almost destroyed Tokyo once again. One day on his way to school, he saw a magic show. He immediately realized that the magician was about to face danger. The magician locked himself in alloy chains and had his assistant trap him inside a box. The performance seemed flawless, but to save him, the boy instantly teleported there. However, he discovered that there was no magician inside. The man suddenly realized something terrifying. The brand new house he had just bought had a black hole in the wall. At first he thought it was just a strange stain or damage, but curiosity eventually took over. He ripped off the wallpaper on the wall and discovered behind it a metal door. Jerry carefully examined the oddly shaped lock. Suddenly he remembered the wooden block that looked like a key, which he had just thrown into the trash. He hurriedly found it and pieced the fragments into a cross. Jerry carefully inserted the wooden key into the metal door, turned it, and the door opened. His wife stepped into the room. Suddenly every light in the house began to flicker wildly. Jerry thought it was an electrical issue, so he quickly called the power company. The electrician examined the tangled wires and said they looked ancient, older than his grandmother. He had never seen anything like it before, so he told Jerry he needed to go back and research to find a solution. While chatting, the electrician seemed shocked and asked if the house had a new owner. Jerry sensed something was wrong and quickly asked him,
"The previous owners, they got killed in this house. You know. Shit, nobody told you? Listen, if I was you, I wouldn't touch it. But I'll get you an estimate when I can. Well, good luck."
This is a marine protector. His power is immense. This time, he disguised himself as a chef, with the goal of tracking down those who pollute the oceans. When Roger tried to attack his target, the target's bodyguards suddenly appeared and surrounded him. Roger quickly adjusted his actions, pretending that he was just preparing lunch for the boss. He grabbed some fresh octopus tentacles, and two other chefs came over to help with the preparations. There were too many bodyguards, and Roger had no choice. He could only place the octopus tentacles on the grill. Roger's face twisted in intense pain, but the boss thought he was just showing off his cooking skills. When the other chefs started to slice the tentacles, Roger forced himself to endure the pain and hide it. However, the boss seemed to really enjoy the performance. The chefs began to pound the octopus legs with force. Roger tried to sing to cover his agony, but this was only the beginning. The chefs put the tentacles into a meat grinder, turning them into minced meat. Finally, Roger could no longer bear the excruciating pain and spat out a mouthful of black ink. He then quickly retreated. In the end, Roger escaped through the window, leaving behind a group of shocked onlookers. Hundreds of shells were fired directly at me. They slammed hard into my stomach, but it didn't hurt at all. With my strength, I bounced each shell back. In an instant, the enemy was blown to pieces. They jumped into the river, trying to escape, but I reached out and grabbed the rope in the sea, pulling each ship. Hundreds of warships were driven back by me in one go. That battle made me famous in the land of the little people. Posters of me were plastered all over the country, but my achievements only made Jack more jealous. So he went to the enemy nation, planning to help them defeat me. Soon, a huge egg appeared in front of me. Jack was sitting inside, and then he challenged me to a one-on-one fight. I looked at him with utter disdain. What I didn't expect was that the egg suddenly transformed. It completely stunned me. To search for the one meant for him. He walks into a coffee shop, and as he looks at the barista, he feels a connection. But unfortunately, they don't match. So he goes to a club, hoping to meet the right person quickly. He walks up to a girl and greets her, but she has 3 holes. Clearly they don't match. They quietly turn away from each other. The man thinks he may remain single forever, until one day he sees a girl on a dating site. He immediately arranges to meet her. On the day of the meeting, the man sees that the girl is a round socket. They are a perfect pair. From then on, they lived a happy life. So have you found your perfect plug and socket? The man dipped his finger and gently tasted a bit of ice cream, but just then the girl slowly disappeared. The man calmly began to sweep the floor, scooping the melted ice cream back into its container and placing it back on the counter. Soon, another girl walked into the store. She noticed that others seemed hesitant to eat the ice cream. Suddenly, the door behind her clicked shut with a snap. The girl nervously said she wanted strawberry ice cream, but her face began to melt. When she pointed at the counter, her fingers started to drip. Strangely, the store owner seemed not at all frightened. The girl tried to leave, but found her feet stuck to the floor. In a moment, she could no longer hold on, and her body began to completely melt. The store owner walked out from behind the counter, comforting her not to panic, but the girl could no longer speak, only helplessly watching. The store owner reached out to dip into her melting body, tasting the part of her that had already disappeared. Suddenly, she completely melted, leaving only a dental brace. The store owner picked up the brace and continued sweeping the floor, gathering the ice cream, then placing it on the shelf. Every flavor was treated the same way. A hunter ventured into the territory of the monsters. The monsters quickly noticed the intruder. It charged toward the woman. It knocked her to the ground. In that dangerous moment, Anna grabbed a hunting rifle. She smashed it into the monster's head. She fired several shots, forcing the monster to retreat. But as Anna reloaded, several tentacles suddenly pierced her body. Anna turned in shock. She saw that it was the leader of the monsters. The monster lifted Anna into the air. Then it extended its tentacles into her neck. These monsters evolved by absorbing human energy. After returning to the cave, the monster extended its antennae into its companion's body. A mysterious energy flowed through them. They quickly completed their evolution. After the monsters invaded human territory, fortunately, individuals with superhuman abilities protected the village. They were able to fight the monsters, but could not kill them. As more and more monsters flooded in, Gwen gathered all the villagers into a room, sealing the door with protective seals. Meanwhile, a superhuman was fighting the monsters outside. Unfortunately, the Beast King ambushed him. Its tentacles pierced Rosha's body. Just as the Beast King was about to absorb his energy, the man's ally arrived just in time, using immense strength to drive the monster away. I cook a bowl of noodles every day, but I never eat it after cooking. I only use it to take photos for social media. The reason for doing this is it hides my identity as a killer, because I have already killed 8 girls, thanks to that bowl of noodles every morning. The police haven't noticed me yet. I have been using the victims' phones to update their social media. Every time I post, I set the location to another country to make the victims look alive. My modus operandi is very unusual. Every time I get a victim's phone, I take it home and enter the password. If I enter it incorrectly, I will deliberately smash the phone. When the missing girl calls her own phone, I use a voice changer, pretending to be a woman who found her phone. Then I lure her to the phone repair shop. She doesn't know that as soon as she walks in, she falls into my trap. When I see her walking in, I immediately take out the service agreement, using replacing her broken screen as an excuse, ask her to write down the phone password. From that moment on, her nightmare begins. Once I get the information, my real plan starts. This man was cursed by the god of the desert. Every time he drank water, he would immediately be sent to the desert. 777 years later, he finally returned home. He excitedly jumped into the swimming pool, but the next second, he was sent back to the desert. Another 777 years passed, and this time, he stopped a car on the road. The driver gave him a bottle of water, and Jack immediately drank it. The next moment, Jack was back in the desert. Walking down the road, he stopped the same car again. This time, he refused the water. Eventually, he returned home. Exhausted, he collapsed on the couch. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a dripping faucet. Jack quickly poured a glass of water, but he didn't dare drink it. Carefully, he dipped his finger in, and then slowly placed it in his mouth. Jack realized that this time he wasn't teleported. Excited, he began to try drinking water, thinking that the curse had finally been lifted. So Jack jumped into the swimming pool. However, while swimming, the curse took effect again. Jack was filled with despair. He went through more trials and struggles, but finally returned to the city. While squatting by the roadside, he remembered a time when a man, almost dying of thirst, asked him for water. He had refused. Suddenly, Jack came up with an idea. He asked a woman, "Can I have some water?" The woman replied, "This is for my dog." When she walked away, Jack laughed joyfully. He had finally broken the curse, and the woman was sent to the desert. One day, Jerry woke up and found that sharp claws had suddenly grown on his hands. Jerry desperately tried to get rid of them, but he couldn't. Jerry tried to touch the claws, but he was cut by their sharp edges. After 10 minutes, he began to accept the situation. Jerry tried to open a door, but ended up stabbing through it directly with his claws. Then he picked up a saw, trying to saw off the claws. Unfortunately, the saw broke in the end. To his shock, when he tried to take a sip of his favorite soda, an accident happened. The beginning of all this could be traced back to 3 days ago. That day, he and his friend were hit by a mysterious beam of light. When his friend woke up, lasers were shooting from his eyes. Tom tried wearing glasses to block the lasers, but it had no effect at all. In the end, he could only close his eyes, barely able to control the laser. Once, he even accidentally ate a Lego toy as his breakfast. After some serious discussion, they finally realized they had gained superpowers. Later, Tom got a pair of special glasses that allowed him to control the lasers. Jerry used his claws to cut salad, while Tom used the laser to cook chicken. Jerry even shaved with his claws, since it was very convenient. Eventually, they learned how to properly use these superpowers. A kind-hearted person released 2 monsters. They looked ugly, but they were humanity's best friends. When the 2 monsters embraced each other, Jerry opened another containment box. The little monster was released. The little guy showed its gratitude by kissing Jerry's cheek. Watching the monsters reunite, Jerry and his companions felt very happy. However, they couldn't stay here for long. The monster hunters would soon arrive. The monsters quickly transformed into 3 heavily modified trucks. These trucks had powerful engines to help the monsters move. Jerry and his partner decided to escort the monsters back to their homeland, but the hunters soon locked onto Jerry's location. Their convoy prepared to intercept the monster trucks. As they approached Jerry's truck, the little monster seized the opportunity, using its tentacles to flip the hunter's vehicle. The hunters didn't give up. They launched a more intense attack. One hunter rammed Jerry's truck into a wall, causing enough pressure to flip the truck. But Jerry didn't fall off the cliff. A second later, another wave of impact struck. The strong collision threw Jerry out of the truck. Fortunately, Jerry grabbed the door. He held on tightly. Just as the hunters were preparing to strike again, the sheriff arrived just in time. A man was lying in the pool, sleeping, but the drain valve was open. Water started flowing out of the pool. Jerry sensed something was wrong. He swam to the edge of the pool and tried to climb out, but the walls were too slippery. He noticed a crack on the wall. Though he tried to grab it, he couldn't pull himself up. He found a kayak, but luck wasn't on his side. He tried to use a rope to hook his phone down, but after several attempts, he failed again. He shouted for help, but no one responded. Suddenly, his phone rang. As it vibrated, moving toward the pool, his dog had an accident. It was trapped at the poolside, almost suffocating. Jerry watched helplessly. With no other choice, he decided to save the dog. First, he placed the kayak under the dog's feet, successfully rescuing the dog. The phone fell down. Fortunately, the phone was still attached to the charging cable, so it wouldn't fall into the water. Jerry rushed to grab the phone, but he couldn't reach it. He tried to climb up, but the phone slid into the water. Now it couldn't turn on anymore. The water level kept decreasing. To slow it down, he stuffed a towel into the drain, but he was also pulled into it. At that moment, his girlfriend appeared by the poolside.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort. We have traveled land and sea.
I was playing dead. Because my 2 teammates had already been shot and died in battle, I quickly fell to the ground, pretending that I had also been hit. At that moment, the enemy commander walked in. He started talking about his bravery, but I really couldn't keep up the act any longer. So while they were talking, I tried to quietly sneak away. But one soldier noticed me moving. He was about to report to the commander, when the commander interrupted him. Suddenly, a fly landed on my face. I carefully squished it, and secretly ate a piece of chocolate. A nearby soldier saw everything, so he immediately reported it to his superior. The commander stormed over in fury, wanting to ensure all the enemies were dead. When he stabbed the last corpse, my muscles twitched. The commander thought it was just a post-mortem reflex, so he didn't stab again. The commander continued his speech, but this time, the soldier couldn't hold back his anger, and shouted that I was still alive. His voice startled the commander. They started arguing, and in the end, the commander, in a rage, shot the soldier and mocked his body. But in fact, the bullet got jammed. After the commander left, we exchanged a glance, not saying a word, but our eyes spoke volumes. This guy noticed strange things happening at the bank. Every person coming to withdraw money didn't care about the 1 cent taken. Jerry saw an opportunity to make billions through service fees. Although Jerry was just a low-level employee at the bank, this bank had hundreds of millions of customers. Every day it charged a 1 cent service fee from customers' accounts. He could become a billionaire. No customer would suspect theft. That night, after Jerry got home, he tried to hack into the bank's computer system. Fortunately, he knew programming, so it wasn't difficult for him. Jerry worked all night writing a Trojan horse and embedded it in a PDF file. Then he sent the file to the manager. The next day, the manager came into the office, downloaded the PDF file. Jerry immediately hacked into the manager's computer and even discovered the manager's secrets. But he didn't care about that. Jerry hacked into the bank's computer system. Employees noticed problems with their computers. They thought it was a computer malfunction. so everyone's attention was focused on the computers. That was Jerry's real plan. When the security restarted the entire system, he easily obtained the bank's password and connected to the bank's servers. Jerry deducted 1 cent from all customer accounts, making $300,000 in just 1 minute. He jumped up in joy. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. This guy hadn't caught a fish for 3 days. Suddenly, bubbles started to appear in the puddle. He sensed something was wrong, so he stood up. The bubbles in the puddle grew bigger and bigger. Tom turned around and ran. A water dragon suddenly surged out. Its mouth opened wide and swallowed Tom. Tom was drenched in the cold river water. In the chilly weather, his clothes immediately froze stiff. When Tom lowered his head, he realized there was a big fish in his bucket. Tom was overjoyed. He heard, looking at this talking fish, Tom decided to give up the idea of eating it. He placed the fish by the bed and prepared to rest. But suddenly, the whole house began to shake.
Oh no! Oh my God! No!
It's just the tip.
A group of insane scientists kidnapped a young woman, planning to use her for human experimentation. After the woman was knocked unconscious, they didn't explain anything, but directly injected a serum into her body. The woman's name was Gwen. When she woke up, she found herself locked in a strange cell. Gwen screamed for help, but there was no one around, only the echo of her own voice. Before Gwen could figure out what had happened, the cell door suddenly opened. A masked man walked in, carrying a tray of dog food. He placed it on the floor and told Gwen to eat. Just the sight of it was enough to make her sick, so much so that even the dog hesitated. Gwen immediately shook her head, refusing to touch it. The masked man didn't say anything. He picked up the tray and left. For the next few days, Gwen didn't eat a single bite of food, not even a drop of water. At first, she barely managed to hold on, but by the next day, Gwen's body had completely weakened. Her stomach growled incessantly, and the only thought in her mind was she should eat the dog food. What Gwen didn't know was she was being watched by the scientists, hidden in the shadows. Once they confirmed the experiment was a success, the dog food was brought back. By then, Gwen was incredibly hungry. Her vision began to fade, and dignity no longer mattered. Gwen only thought about surviving. She grabbed the tray and started eating, bowing her head to devour the disgusting dog food. In 2048, a disaster struck Earth. The invaders were not zombies, but alien creatures called white spikes. They fed on humans and reproduced like wildfire, making them almost impossible to eliminate. In just 2 years, Earth descended into collapse, with less than 500,000 survivors left. Civilization was on the brink of extinction. Out of desperation, humans built a time machine, deciding to travel through time and seek help. On Christmas Day 2022, during the World Cup final, a wormhole suddenly opened in the center of the field. Fully armed soldiers emerged. Colonel Romeo announced they were from 30 years in the future, and Earth was about to be destroyed by alien monsters.
In 11 months' time, all human beings in the future will be wiped from the face of the earth, unless you help us. We need you. We need you to fight beside us if we stand a chance at winning this war.
This is a joke.
You are our last hope.
This was a terrifying serial killer. Every day, he drove a school bus searching for victims. Any woman walking home alone would become his target. Jerry would lure the women onto the bus, and once they were on board, the nightmare would begin. Jerry would attack them until they were completely unconscious. Then Jerry would drag the women to his slaughterhouse, lock them up. The women would wake up in pain, and when they saw the knife in Jerry's hand, they would beg him to let them go. But Jerry coldly killed the women. The next night, Jerry was once again out in his school bus, looking for new targets. He spotted a car parked on the side of the road. Inside the car was a woman. Jerry got out and asked her if she needed help. Anna refused his help. After confirming that Anna was alone, Jerry turned and walked back to his car. Anna nervously watched Jerry. What happened next left her no chance of escape. Anna tried to run but failed. Then Jerry took Anna back to his slaughterhouse. There, under the deadly knife, Anna's body was brutally dismembered. When Gwen woke up, she found herself trapped in a strange, enclosed cave. Her body was tightly wrapped in a viscous, fleshy membrane. She struggled desperately, and finally broke free from the membrane when she fell. She couldn't control herself and vomited. Black mist poured out of her mouth, as if something was being expelled from her body. Gwen struggled to stand, quickly scanning her surroundings. She realized she wasn't alone. There were 11 other children, imprisoned in the same place. She saw a monster. The monster's true form was floating, drawing power from the surrounding magical vines, spreading throughout the area. Fear surged in Gwen's heart. She quickly turned and fled. But when she burst out of the cave, she saw a scene that filled her with despair. Outside was a strange world, full of jagged rocks, as if she had stepped onto an alien planet. Gwen turned around and saw the monster had awakened. She ran for her life. I walked into a red telephone booth, not noticing the iron door was closing. I inserted a coin to make a call, but the phone was broken. Losing $1 made me very angry. When I tried to leave, I found the iron door wouldn't open. I thought it was just a boring prank, temporarily trapping me inside. The sunlight was unusually strong, shining on me, gradually irritating me. 2 passers-by walked by. I quickly tapped on the glass, seeking their help. They came over, but my voice couldn't be heard. However, through gestures, they understood. They pulled hard from the outside while I pushed from the inside, but the door didn't budge. More and more people gathered around. The 2 looked at their watches and had to go to work. I smiled and said goodbye. Soon more people stopped to watch. A strong man walked over, trying to pull the door open. Even if it meant tearing off his hand, he failed. People laughed at him. He tried to smash the glass with his body, but still failed and awkwardly left. An experienced repairman came over to examine the situation closely, but couldn't find any screws. He tried to pry open the gap, but it had no effect. In the end, he reassembled the broken handle and left. As more and more people gathered, a small society formed around me, yet no one could save me. I helplessly crouched down. That day, I was walking on the grassland when I suddenly discovered a person who had been bitten by a poisonous snake. I immediately helped him by sucking out the venom and chewed some herbs to apply to the wound. At that moment, the man's sister, Lisa, saw me and mistakenly thought I was biting her brother. She grabbed a flashlight and tried to scare me off. I was startled and bumped into the car door. She shouted for me not to touch her brother and pretended the flashlight was a gun. I kicked her flashlight away, and she ran off in fear. I quickly called out to her, gesturing for her not to be afraid. I spat out the herbs from my mouth to explain, but since the herbs had numbed my tongue, I couldn't speak. Helpless, I continued to apply the herbs to the man's wound. At this point, Lisa realized I wasn't a cannibal. Suddenly, I spotted some coconut trees in the distance, with a toolbox nearby. I decided to try a few methods to save him. I took out 2 syringes and a tube, then skillfully started the car using a rock to press down the accelerator pedal. After the wheels began turning, I used it to sharpen the syringes. I inserted the syringes into the tube and performed a simple intravenous injection. Next, I picked a few coconuts, inserted the syringe into the coconut, and tied a knot to control the flow. Then I injected the coconut juice into the man. Coconut water contains proteins and vitamins, which temporarily saved his life. The entire city's residents suddenly surged toward the central square. They quickly built a tower that could accommodate thousands of people, climbing upwards fearlessly. The goal was clear: to reach the highest point. All of this was caused by a spy who had been undercover for years, and when no one was paying attention, quietly pried open the iron door on the flagpole, damaging the flag-raising equipment. When people saw the flag slowly falling, panic quickly spread throughout the city. Some even shed tears of sorrow because of it. In the next moment, whether they were farmers in the fields, employees on their way to work, or fishermen out on the water, everyone stopped what they were doing, and without hesitation, rushed to the central square. Their goal was clear: to raise the flag once again. No matter what challenges lay ahead, nothing could stop them from moving forward. Soon, everyone gathered at the base of the flagpole. United by a common belief, they began to form a human pyramid. As more people joined in, a tower of thousands quickly formed. They kept climbing. Through collective effort, finally one person reached the top of the tower. He grabbed the broken rope, gazed at the distant sky, and without hesitation jumped down. When the flag was successfully raised, everyone smiled with joy. That day, on my way home from work, I accidentally dropped my lighter on the ground. As I bent down to pick it up, I noticed someone taking pictures in the photo booth. He was wearing cute little bear socks and looked like a young man. I didn't think much of it after all. It was none of my business. Then I turned and left. The next morning, I went to work as usual. When I passed by the photo booth again, I was deeply shocked because the person from yesterday was still inside, in the same posture as yesterday. I was confused, but had no time to think it through, and continued on to work. However, the whole day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Eventually, I told my best friend about it. She suspected that I had encountered a ghost, and suggested that I avoid taking that route in the future, but curiosity eventually overcame fear. After work, I chose to take the same route home. As I expected, the person was still standing in the photo booth, holding the same pose. A strong sense of fear enveloped me. Just as I was about to turn and run, there came a clicking sound from inside the photo booth. The photos started printing out. I waited for a few seconds, and the person inside still did not react. I walked over and picked up the photo, wanting to see what that face looked like. At that moment, the curtain behind me slowly opened. Every night, I am awakened by nightmares. I scream and struggle to break free from sleep. Only by taking sedatives can I barely fall asleep. I hide in the asteroid belt at the edge of the universe, escaping from the enemies who want me dead. One day, a spaceship suddenly appeared. It was an interstellar merchant conducting a routine patrol, but this time, his target was clear: the rare mineral in my base. This mineral is the only one of its kind in the entire universe. He was willing to exchange 4 million watts of energy for it. I had no interest in his offer.
What I need is a weapon, one powerful enough to destroy an orbital colony the size of, say, Kona.
A few years ago, Kronos betrayed us, killed my husband, and slaughtered over 1,000 members of my family. Revenge is the only thing that keeps me alive, the squid merchant said. No matter how difficult it was, he would never participate in arms dealing. He tried to convince me, and when he noticed my pet cockroach, he could tell that I felt lonely. Then the merchant cut off contact with me. A conspiracy was about to unfold.